I know many of you, I'm sure many of you know about Taz, right? He's one of the main characters of Looney Tunes. How many of you know that guy? Many. Okay, cool. You might also know that this guy belongs to a real species, the Tasmanian devil. Here it is. Looks like that. Aren't they cute, both of them? Super similar. The real Taz has a real story, the story of why genetic diversity actually matters, and how the field of conservation genetics, which is the field I work in, is helping species of animals and plants avoid to get extinct. And this is what I'm going to have a talk today. So, what is genetic diversity and why does this matter? Well, genetic diversity is actually the different versions of the same gene that an individual and a population can have. So, a population that has a lot of genetic diversity would actually look like this bottle with multiple colors. So each of the marbles of these balls here represents one individual with one gene. And each of the colors and the different patterns represent the different versions of that gene. Okay? So genetic diversity is important because it allows a population to adapt to changes in the environment. So the population of the real Taz, the Tasmanian devil, looked like this bottle full of colors back in 1930s. Okay? Like a bottle full of colors. However, the devils at that time liked to hunt and eat the chickens of the humans. And humans like to hunt Taz. So humans reduced the population to almost extinction. Same as if we took only a few bottles, a few marbles from the bottle. But humans realized of their mistake, and a conservation program started. After a few years, the population of devil increased in size. But they increased in size, but not in genetic diversity. And the population of devil at that time looked like this, with only a few colors, very low genetic diversity. So you may wonder why this matters. Why is this important, as I said before? Well, actually, genetic diversity is the raw material for evolution. Natural selection will act on the genetic variation that a population has and confer advantages to specific versions of a gene over another, and eventually causing local adaptations that will allow the population to face changes in the environment. And a change happened in the environment for the devils. In 1996, a virus affected the population, and in just 5 years, more than half of the population of devils were dead because of this facial tumor virus that spread around the population. And all of that because genetic diversity was very reduced. And the virus managed to get and spread among the population without being detected by the immune system. So now we know that genetic diversity is super important. We don't want this to happen more, right? So genetic diversity needs to be precisely quantified with specific techniques to be able to measure and see how well the populations are doing. But how do we measure genetic diversity? Well, advances in genetic technologies have allowed us to look at the very base level of the DNA of the individuals, of us. The DNA is the hereditary material that contains all the information that tells about the processes and all the information that we need to live. So these technologies have allowed us to look at the DNA, and we are now able with this technology to look at the specific points in the DNA of individuals. Those points in the DNA that we can look at are called, in the field I work in, molecular markers. Those are like flags in the DNA where we can look at and quantify how much variation is there in the population. So, taking a task as an example, imagine that we have 3 individuals and we are able to look at their DNA, and we look at 3 different markers, which will be 3 different positions in their DNA, and we compare how different or how similar they are between them. So, for example, for the marker 1, we will see here that the population consisted of these 3 individuals would be very, very different. Each of the markers represents a different color, a different version of that molecular